Adventure Ho Illumineers, and welcome back to another episode of the Ducktail Dads. I am one of your four hosts, Nathaniel. I'm back. Thank goodness. It's so good to see you guys. Feels like it's been a while. Joined by the usual dads, we have our resident Scrooge McDuck, Connor, as well as Ryan and Mack to round out the full quad of Ducktail Dads tonight. Super excited to talk about some of the recent happenings in Lorcana that we've been experiencing, also experiencing together. So something we don't get to do as often as we'd like, we got to do recently. More on that in a moment. But before we get into anything else, we do need to provide the disclaimer because it is officially August 2026, which means it is the month of the not one, not two, but third year anniversary event at Game Center that is located in Roseville, Minnesota. We are going to be having an episode with AJ to talk a little bit more about this. For those who remember this, we've definitely been talking about this a lot the last couple months, but it is a massive event for the state of Minnesota. It's usually the biggest one all year in terms of just the number of people that show up to this. So super excited to have that be just a few weeks away now. So that's going to be August 22nd and August 23rd at Game Center in Roseville. So more details to come when we get AJ on next week, but that is coming up soon. So mark a calendar if you can make it for one or both days. Highly recommend you do so. It is an incredible tournament. Now that said, Mac, what's new in your world, man?
Jumping right in, a lot going on for what's new in my world, of which, especially on the Lorcana side, is kind of going to be the bulk of our episode for tonight. That being our friend draft night. We'll get into more details later. So that was really, really fun. I really love getting together with y'all and being able to kind of have our own sealed or draft and just opening packs together. It's always a good time. We try and do it once per set. And we rotate who gets to host. So lovely Scrooge McDuck was the one able to host this last time around, and just a gracious host as always. So thank you, Connor. Other than that, I participated in Brina's birthday bash that I had mentioned, I think, last episode. That was super, super fun. The hosts were Jenna and Ron from Love and Lorcana. They are absolutely fantastic. So amazing that they were able to put this little get together, and we had a lot of fun for all those that showed up. There were plenty of kids running around having a good time, and we had a full-fledged 17-player tournament on specifically a franchise night. So I'll talk about what kind of the decks that I saw there and what we ran into over the past weekend when I played there, when we get into more details then. But non-Lorcana related, still trying to soak up all the rays with the family. Definitely running around in sprinklers, and the hose is always consistently running. I'll just wait to see my water bill over the next iteration of that coming through. But other than that, my garden is starting to produce a lot of vegetables now. I picked out a zucchini as big as my youngest son's arm yesterday, so that was pretty funny to see him just hold it, and he was struggling to hold it up. But the tomatoes are starting to come in, and as well as I pulled 87 onions yesterday from my garden, and that was just round one. I'm expecting another 20 of them over the course of this week. So it's been amazing to have all the vegetables come out of the garden. And I do see you guys in our personal chat talking about potatoes. The potatoes aren't harvest yet. They are still growing, still waiting on those. That'll probably be another month away. No posies in my garden right now. But it's just a matter of time before I start digging those out in my garden. So a lot going on in what's new in my world. Now I'm going to pass it to Connor. What's new in your world?
Yes, thank you. Before I dive in, I need to know, what are you planning with 87 onions?
Great question. So last year when we did onions, we did 8 onion plants or whatever, and we just diced them all up and froze them, just to see how long they could last over the winter. And my wife was just I loved not spending any money on onions or the produce of that variety for 5 months. So I was say less, challenge accepted. This time I'm doing 32 plants. So I got like 2 full-size gallon bags of chopped yellow onions out of the 87. And I'm expecting around another gallon bag of red onion. That's the one that we're waiting to harvest in the next couple days. So we're trying to make it through the winter of not purchasing any onions here in the state of Minnesota. So we'll see if it lasts.
That is incredible. Incredible. Very envious. Now I'm going to be looking at starting my own garden here. But yes, busy weekend on the non-Lorcaina side. I was solo dad for Saturday, and we went to multiple playgrounds because getting the kids out of the house during the summer is definitely a must. And so the kids were running around, doing things that are a little risky, and they're getting super active and getting owies and bonks and boo-boos and all that jazz. And so we're very, very big into ice packs currently, but they love saying that they need an ice pack. They'll trip and they'll say they need an ice pack. They'll sneeze and they'll say like, my owie, I need an ice pack. But it's always fun though to see them running around and having a great time, especially when they're getting along. That's always a plus. But I'll tell you what, splash pads are incredible. But man, they do a number on your kneecaps. So those kids have gotten scrapes and scratches every single time they go, but every single time that they go, they're running around and having the time of their life. So it's fantastic, always fun. So it was a good weekend. Spent some quality time with the kids and it was busy, exhausting. However, it's worth it in the end. But for a Lorcaina side, again, we got together for the draft night. Safe to say, I thoroughly love draft. That is a very fun format. And I highly recommend, if anyone has not done that, to try it out. It's just so fun. And definitely I was nervous about whether or not I was going to be able to give up certain cards. But in the end, it wasn't that bad at all. So it was great. I definitely recommend it. But other Lorcaina news for myself, I've definitely had a string of luck with my hanger packs because I've been fortunate enough to finally find some Attack of the Vine product out in the wild, and I got 2 from Target, and sure enough, out of the 2, I pulled the Maleficent Diablo Tag Team Enchanted, and it is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful card. It was a carpool. My wife was driving, and all of a sudden just, oh my gosh. And she's trying to decipher like what is happening, like what's wrong. And I was like, it's an enchanted. She's like, is that good? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna message the guys. And so it was good. It's fun. Definitely, I think as Ryan alluded to before our pod started, it's my 3rd enchanted out of like 10 hanger packs, and so I'm on a very strong heater, and so it's just goes to show you could buy a case and not get it in. You could buy 1 or 2 hangers at Target, and there you go. But overall, having a blast, just kind of play testing and talking to the community and talking to different players and seeing what they're thinking and seeing what their opinion is on the upcoming set and the upcoming meta. And I'm just excited to see some results from some upcoming tournaments and just go ahead and get out there and play. So yeah, it's been a great time, but ultimately, of course, as always, not enough. More Lorcaina to come. Ryan, how about you? What's new in your world?
What's new in my world from a non-Lorcaina standpoint? We went to a children's play this weekend with my daughter and my sister and my nephew. That was a really great time for just to see the look on my daughter's face, to experience a theater for the first time and a stage performance. Watching some elementary middle schoolers perform Aladdin, which was pretty. Love that movie, love the music. Even when little children are singing it, still is delightful to listen to. And then we went to a park to play, and we got some lunch, and it was all around a good experience. And I was able to swing by the game store up that way where the children's theater was, because it's a little bit out of the way, not a store I usually would go to. But we were already out there, so I figured I'd stop by and see if they have any product. And lo and behold, they did. They had 2 boxes of Attack of the Vine left, and I bought 1 box. I went outside and called my wife and said, hey, they have a second box inside. I feel a little bad about buying it, but if you want me to buy you a box, I'll buy you a box, and you let me know. And she said, yes, just go buy it. Like, just get it. We'll open it, and we'll see what we get. And we ended up pulling 2 more enchanteds, 1 out of each of the boxes. So we were very, very pleased with the purchase of 2 boxes. So shout out to Elemental Games up in Alexandria. Thank you for the shiny cardboard. Other Lorcana news, just play testing, crafting, tinkering with decks, and I will echo the previous comments about the draft night that I was a little apprehensive to do a draft because I inherently thought I was just not going to like giving up the cards that I opened in my packs. But at the end of the day, I didn't feel it felt very, very fun. I will say that my opinion on it has significantly changed. I am now a fan of draft as well. Sealed is still a blast. Draft is fun, but draft feels much worse when you're passing shift targets and the big shift characters to your next door neighbors and just feeding them the Potato Posey shift line and the Meilin Sun Yi and all the Red Panda shift lines, and just thinking like, I can't give him this, can I? I guess I can, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so kudos or congratulations to whoever was sitting next to me to get all of those shift characters. Because I just didn't feel like I could pull off the shift lines, or there was always better cards for me to pick other than those. I think there was one time where I maybe took a big shift character or a shift target away from my neighbor because I knew what they had brewing already. So nonetheless, it was still a blast. Had a great time. It's always fun to hang out with the guys and drink some root beer and eat way too many cheddar and sour cream potato chips, and then wipe off my hands and keep playing. Thankfully, all the cards were sleeved, so maybe that's the reason we always sleeve cards, is because we don't want to get the Cheeto dust or the chip dust on it. Nathaniel, what's new in your world?
So, I actually was out of the state for the weekend, so I have been doing less dad things in the last week than y'all have. I was actually in Denver, Colorado, kind of across the country. Yikes. Obviously still waking up from that trip. But it was for a wedding of a dear friend of mine, so that was a ton of fun, being able to celebrate. From a Lorcana perspective, absolutely a highlight experience for me, really playing draft. I've really only done it a couple times in the 2 years I've been playing Lorcana, and I think I would echo what we had said in the past of like having a degree of apprehension over not getting to keep the cards in my pack and what that would feel like. I'll be honest though, when we were passing cards around, I had zero issues with passing the cards I was pulling. Maybe it's because I didn't have any like crazy packs, but also it was just really cool to be able to do a little bit more of a curated deck than you can out of your traditional sealed experience. So I really enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun. Connor, again, huge ups to you. Thank you for hosting that event. It was a ton of fun. I'll definitely get. Maybe I just jump right into this while we're on the topic of draft night. I got super greedy with my deck build. The first pack I believe I had a potato in there, or maybe it was a posy or something. And I thought about Mack and all of his future shift targets and was like, I have to do this. And so that's an ode to Mack's garden, by the way. I need to do this potato shift line. It's amazing. And so I did that, but then I also got the amethyst morph. So I actually had two small potatoes, the amethyst morph, and then eventually ultimately got the darkwing duck shift as well. And then I did have the ruby dash that could also be a bigger shift character. The one that when it exerts or when it quests, you can play something off the top, right? Which is really good in sealed because there's like zero card draw. Well, when it turns out when you don't have like consistent like 4-ofs in a deck, right? You don't really get to do the thing all that often. So my dream of the potato shift line was almost dead by the end of the night. We were largely doing best of ones just so we could make sure everybody got to have a chance to play each person in the room. Our friend Evan was also there. So you'd at least play 4 games, and then if you kind of went quickly, I think Ryan and I played, we each played on the draw, on the play once. Connor, same thing. But that said, I was on like game 7 or 8 at this point, and I hadn't pulled off a big cool shift thing once. And in my game against Evan, I pulled off not just the Darkwing onto the morph, but also Posey onto a potato. So yeah, 1 and 8, when it does happen, holy cow, does it ever feel amazing. That was so funny. He wasn't as familiar with the cards, so when I like turned 1 ink and played a potato, he was like, what the heck is that? Because it just like he's like, what is this? What's happening here? You would never just play this like worthless card if it didn't like do something. And I just kind of got to giggle because I already had the Posey in hand, so I knew it was going to finally happen. It was just, yeah, kind of hilarious. But like draft in general, I think it's definitely slept on, in my opinion, relative to other formats of the game. I do think if you're ever on the fence about playing it, like, highly recommend you try it. I think from a preparation perspective, if you do the same amount of prep that you would do just to familiarize yourself with the cards the same way you would for like a sealed night, you'll figure out what you want to do based on what you're seeing with some of the packs. And as you open packs, this is one thing I've learned with draft, you start to figure out like, hey, this is maybe some of the stuff I could chase from a synergy perspective, because I do get to see so many more cards in this pod style structure where lots of cards are coming around over and over again. And then you get some garbage at the end when there's, 2 cards left in the pack, and you usually don't play with any of those. But I thought it was awesome, guys. I'd love to hear your perspective on it. I thought it was so fun.
Yeah, I'll jump in here on that. I think draft is slowly, and it might already be there, becoming my favorite over sealed. Because of, I don't know, I think I like the high risk, high reward factor with draft and what that enables. And also there's more ways, it feels more personal in the sense that you are choosing the cards and the specific play lines that you have in your head as you're passing the cards around, rather than sealed. It's just like, here's a pile of cards and figure it out. So I like the kind of the anticipatory nature of that when it comes to building the deck, and like, ooh, I'm thinking this shift line, but I better hope this other piece of that shift is passed to me as a result of the draft scenario. But I think my love of draft really started about a year ago now. I think I alluded to, and funny, we've been talking about the anniversary event. The second year anniversary event last year was when I was introduced to draft for like the first time, I believe. And I was introduced to draft in a very, very fun way, in the sense that I participated in our friend Ernie's Cube. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Ernie has collected all of these like really, really good draft-based cards over his career in playing Lorcana. And he's made personal 12-card decks to be a part of a draft, and he calls it the Cube. So like each pack has 12 cards that are really, really good and in a draft setting. So that was fun, being able to pass like, oh my gosh, these are all amazing, and you're giving your opponents like really good cards, and then you play the same old draft scenario with 3 rounds and what have you, and go through that. So that's where it started for me, and I think as the more and more that I've played it, I've continued to enjoy it more and more. The one kind of bummer in our group is we open a whole box, and Ryan and I guess Connor at this point, they chose not to have their luck filter out through the group, and we did not pull an enchanted in our box that we opened. But it was a really, really fun night. It was nice to see those of you who haven't participated in draft experience it for the first time. And I think we were on our first of 4 packs, or our first round. And Connor, after we were done, I distinctly remember you saying, yeah, this is my style. I really like draft. So you could just see his kind of like draft building like wheels to start turning. And it was really cool. My deck performed as expected. I think I went 500. But it's primarily due to the fact that I don't think I had any removal cards. And I think the 2 people that did the best had some sort of removal or had a potato shift, for example. So, and that night always allows me to like organize my cards, and we can start talking about like our just core constructed decks too, and maybe we can get into that in a minute too. But like I loved it. I hope we do more of that draft, because we've done sealed a couple times, and then it's really fun getting together and doing these theme nights, just the core 5 of us, rather than just building an infinity or a core deck and just saying, hey, let's just go. And it feels like a whole nother league night. When really, like, I think those nights are meant to have the variety. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I want to hear from Connor himself, because like because of the comments and the excitement that I saw as you were opening the packs. Is that your new favorite limited style, Connor? How do you feel?
100%. Hands down, favorite. Sealed is fun. to a point, I like it. Pack Rush is always fun too. I mean, that's nice because it's quick, short, it's sweet. I have been able to convince the missus to participate. However, draft, it was exciting, right? Because oh man, I don't even really know how to describe how I felt. Granted, my first pack, I didn't even really think twice. I got a foil Mushu. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the one. Picked it, and then passed everything to the left. And then the next pack that came to me, it's just like, it's just so exciting. Because really, the whole mentality shifts. It's no longer, oh, what are all the cards that I got? It's like, oh, that could be good. Oh, that could be good. That could be good. But in the beginning, you really don't know what your deck is going to look like. And I think that's so fun. And it's the same thing with sealed, right? You don't know what your deck is going to look like. You try and, put lipstick on a pig sometimes. However, you have a lot more control with draft. And I think that's a lot of fun. Because I looked over at Ryan, who is a little bit more organized than I am, and he had all his cards face down, so I couldn't see them, sneaky. But he had them labeled, not labeled, left to right, like essentially his 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops. So you can see, like, all right, where are the cards that I'm drafting? What are they? Like, where am I at? Do I have 12, 4 drops and no 3 drops? Like, what am I going to be missing? And so it was nice to be able to, like, strategically go that route. However, I think in my head I lost any of like potential synergies doing it that way. I was looking predominantly at like the cost and the stats, whereas then you come up against people like Nathaniel and who has the Russell and Carl Fredrickson shift line, Paradise Falls, and Quest for a Bajillion, Draw a Bajillion, and it's just it was so fun. Immediately after we drafted and we were like starting to play, I wanted to do it again. I was like, all right, let's just go get more product. Let's just go get it. Let's do it. Let's open it. Because it was just so exciting. And again, I think the one thing I could recommend is definitely get familiar with the cards, because it is something that you have to know what each card represents in each deck or each style, and what it could do, what it can't do. And again, we had another friend of ours join us, and he hasn't really played too much of this set, and so I think he passed like the Red Moon Ritual to me in like the second or third pack, and I was like, yeah, thank you, I will gladly take this removal scene together. And I just think that being able to know what would be good in draft versus what's good in core constructed is definitely a skill that I'm trying to harness. However, it is slow coming, so I'm definitely going to be doing more and more draft. Maybe at some events. Hopefully, I think there's going to be some at the anniversary event on August 22nd and August 23rd, as we will be telling you again later, and next week, and later that next week. So again, I tickled, so fun, and just also having all the guys at my house is just a blast. They get to come over, interact with the kids a little bit before they go to bed, and it's super nice that everyone is just so great with kids, and my kids love them, which is always nice. And so, couldn't have asked for a better night. Super fun. I could have asked for an enchanted, however, beggars can't be choosers, and I can't be too greedy, like Nathaniel's deck choice. But either way, it was just so great.
Yeah, I mean, for all the reasons listed above previously, draft is quickly growing on me as a method of playing Lorcana, and any card game for that matter, if that supports it. I think one big thing that I've been grateful for is Ravensburger has intentionally been crafting packs with limited formats in mind. And so it's just like, it's nice that they're supporting this, and nice that they're trending and trying to focus on doing this for players to make it a better experience when people just want to draft for the first time. Because if we drafted with a set of Azurite Sea packs and there was a Maui Shark that somebody opened, it's just like, okay, cool, congrats, you win. That's it. It's over. Whereas it's a much more balanced. It feels much more balanced. The last few sets, it feels much more, power level is even, or at least close to even among the packs, and it's nice to have that experience. And passing cards around, just looking through opening a pack, seeing there's 5 or 6 absolutely killer cards that you would love to have in your limited deck, and being like, I have to get rid of these, but also knowing you'll get another one when it comes back around. So what is that going to be? I'm pretty sure that I saw Nathaniel pass a shift target, a pretty great red panda shift target, the purple Malin Lee, knowing that no one else really wanted it because he had been vacuuming up all of the big red panda shift characters, and then knowing that I saw him do that, and he was sitting next to me, so I was like, he wasn't being super secretive about what he was picking, so I could see what he was picking, and knowing that he had a bunch of red panda shift targets, also because I had passed them to him as well, since he was next to me. And then when I saw it come back around, I just giggled to myself like, man, I can't believe that worked. He got lucky there. Congratulations. But yeah, like Connor said, I had my list, my sets my stacks of ink cost just to keep my brain on straight, and I wasn't super looking for huge synergies. I feel like you don't get a whole lot of payoff when you do look for a bunch of synergies in like a limited setting. So I just try to play best stats, best cards, best characters, and see how that goes. Find a couple of removal options and then run with it. But yeah, it was a blast. Connor opened a foil Mushu in his first pack, and I opened a non-foil Mushu in my first pack. So that was a pretty easy first pick. But then after that, it got a lot more challenging to try to figure out what to pick. And then when someone passes you like a closet door portal or Quacker Jack as the last card in a pack, you're like, great, cool, toss that in the never gonna use it pile, and then we're gonna open the next pack. Let's go. I did find it entertaining that while Legendary was getting passed around the table for the entirety of a pack because nobody wanted to take poor old Quacker Jack. Yeah, I had a blast. Connor, thank you for hosting. Thanks for the snacks. It's always fun getting together with everybody and just chatting about life in Lorcana.
Yeah, good point. With I was gonna chime in with the snacks. Connor, for our listeners, keeps track of what his friend's favorite sweet candy is and salty candy is. So we all showed up, and there was like a version of that for us just on the table. So Connor, very good hosting, much appreciated. That was kind of like just the cherry on top when it comes to hanging out with y'all and playing Lorcana. You kept us entertained with the food and beverage as well. I was, as we've been talking about draft here, I was thinking why don't we see it more from a community side of things, at least locally? It seems like all of the draft that we see locally is put on by members of our community rather than stores doing it once a month, or the pre-release kit is obviously sealed. I'm curious if you guys want to see more of that from draft, from maybe Ravensburger making a 1 week, maybe not opening week, or maybe they alternate between a sealed and draft each release. I don't know what the answer is, but why is it just because it's harder for draft? Maybe there's less product is open. I don't know. I'd like to see more of it, but I'm not really sure how you can implement it other than just having it be a community run, it feels like.
I think it might also have to do with the numbers, because I think you usually want to have nice round multiples of 4, like draft pods of 4 is the usual way to do it. And there is less product opened, so it's probably a little bit less desirable from a moving a volume of packs. But now that you mention that, Mac, I think it would be super fun, and you'd have to kind of tweak some things to do this, which I don't know if you are allowed to do this or not, but it'd be kind of amazing to do draft with the pre-release box. But then maybe you still have to do 40 cards. But can you imagine some of the decks you could build with, instead of 4 packs, you actually have 6 packs, maybe plus your pre-release card if it's good enough. Usually isn't. But that would be kind of fun. That'd be kind of fun, right? Getting the extra 24 cards circulating with your draft pot of 4. I think that'd be kind of amazing, and it would also just make the pre-release event feel really different. I know some people will go to 2 or 3 or more pre-release events during that week, depending on how they all shake out. I think the opportunity for folks like that to do one that would be in a draft style would be a ton of fun. But I do think it probably has to do with less packs, and then the awkward numbers make it a little bit weird, probably. Because I would imagine the best way to do a draft, if you did have it by a store more often, would be you would literally set a cap at 16. Once it's 16, that's it. Then we won't let anyone else in. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Why that's not a little bit more common than it is right now.
I think one of the challenges that you face when trying to set up a draft for like a league night or something like that is the numbers game, right? Because it's challenging to figure out. We did it with 5 people and it went fine, but it is challenging to like figure out how to make it a round even number. And so usually you'd want to do it. I think you want to do it in pods of 4. And then if you have like 16 people for your pre-release event, and then someone shows up late or is like not registered but wants to play anyways, now you have 17, and that gets really weird. So I think it's just that like sealed is such a cleaner way to have however many people you want to show up and play, and it's easier to prepackage that, and it doesn't take quite as much preparation or knowledge or anything like that. You can just show up, rip packs, and then throw 40 cards together and play. Whereas you're at a significant disadvantage if you were doing it in a draft style and going in completely blind, where you don't have any idea what's happening. You haven't looked at any of the new cards. This is your first time seeing any of them. I think you're at a significant disadvantage in draft. Obviously, you're still at a slight disadvantage in sealed, but in sealed it's a little easier it's a little more of an even playing field in that regard, because your sealed pool is your sealed pool. It doesn't matter if you're like fully prepared to like draft 6 of the best cards in the set. If you don't open any of those best cards in the set, then you don't get them in your sealed pool. Whereas in a draft, people could be, passing removal or things like that. And I think it's just one layer of conflict, potential conflict that they're just avoiding as well, where if you have like a couple or a pair or a group of friends that goes together and they just want to stack one of the decks with all the removal, and another deck gets all of the like big beefy characters or whatever it is that they want to do for collusion or feigning collusion, then you kind of avoid that. You really avoid that with a sealed setting where like your packs are your packs. You do not trade. You do not do anything. It's just your packs. That's what you build with. So I think that's in my mind why we don't see draft quite as much. I think that at least once a set, I believe there's some sort of draft happening somewhere in the Minnesota community. But like you said, I think it is very much driven by one of the fans of the draft format really organizing it and drumming up excitement and support for it, to get the people out to fill out the pods for it. It's something that, if I have more free time, more weekends available to me in the future, that I would be interested in joining in on. But current state, it's challenging to get out to many more events than I'm already making it to. So I'm sure I'm not the only one in this situation, and so it may be a little bit of that playing a factor too, just everybody's conflicting schedules.
So speaking of getting out to multiple events in a week, one of our dads actually was able to achieve that. But before we get into that, Mac, I do just want to call this out before I forget. I just crunched the numbers. Connor had mentioned that he has opened 3 Enchanteds in 10 packs. The odds of doing this are 1 in 8,941. So to give you an idea, you could do that trip to X number of stores to pick up 10 hanger packs 9,000 times, and you would pull the 3 Enchanteds once. So, Connor, that's absolutely incredible. Props to you. That is an absolutely generational heater. But yeah, one in about 9,000. So I hope that you do feel as if your power level is well over 9,000.
Connor, I do have to know, how big is your micro scale to weigh every pack that you pull off the hanger?
Oh man, I just out of curiosity, I want to test that myself. I have never and probably will never weigh my packs. I'm just too excited to see packs in the wild, and so the second I see them, I say, snag 2, and he's like, all right, this is it. These are the 2, and like I hope for like a legendary, maybe, or like a card that is useful or helpful. And then it was unbelievable. It was like within 2 days was the first 2, and then I didn't get any individual sleeve packs for a while, and then finally found some Attack of the Vine, and sure enough. But yeah, I have the Murdoch. Was it the tapestry from last set? The Isabella as well as the Diablo Maleficent. It's just it's silly because I see Ryan pulling Enchanted and I'm like, man, I'm jealous, and then I'm like, wait, nope, can't. That's rude. That's rude to people like Nathaniel and Mack. Like I just can't complain. So I'm just having some fun and enjoying pulling some shiny cardboard. But yeah, nothing. It doesn't get old. The second you like shift the card up a little bit, you're like, is it an epic? Is it an enchanted? Yeah. So it's just so exciting, so fun, generational heater. Hopefully it continues.
Okay, so that being said, Connor, sorry, I totally had to digress there just for a second because that is truly an amazing run. We should speak, but again, amazing runs. Let's talk about it, Mac. You went to a really cool birthday bash. Would love to hear a little bit more about your experience there, the format, the people, because there were some pretty cool people there as well. So, Mac, take it away with the second event that you did last week. Wasn't quite draft. It was a little bit of constructed, but with some caveats there.
Yeah, this was a really, really, really fun event, first and foremost. So it was for Brina, listener. And Brina will forever be in our hearts for the Ducktail Dads podcast because she was the very first person, again, we're harping back on last year's anniversary event, very first person to ever come up to us and say, I am a fan of your podcast, I enjoy listening to it, and I've learned a lot, because she was just getting into the game at that time. Like, she pointed out our ink series for like when we talked about what kind of traditionally what each ink wants to do and popular cards you see out of those inks. And she really appreciated that. And I'll never forget her walking up excited to talk to us. And that was really an eye-opening experience for that. And so it was her kind of birthday party. She said when she thought of something to do on her birthday, the first thing she thought of was, let's just invite people over and have a night full of Lorcana. So we were all graciously invited. I know the three of you were very, very busy over the course of this last weekend, but I was able to attend, and it was absolutely fantastic. We had some of previous guests of the podcast, Christian, Hannah, Lance was there. We've had a lot of other members that we've gotten to know throughout the community as well, like Becky and her husband AJ and I don't know, I don't want to miss anyone, but Tony, like there were a lot of fun people there. And then of course the hosts were Jenna and Ron from Love and Lorcana. So I want to talk about the format first before I have some very specific thank yous that I think need to be recognized here. But the format, it was a franchise night, and it was an Infinity franchise night, and it was really fun to build this deck. So there were a key couple rules that you had to follow for your franchise. All your characters, so it was 2 inks still. All your characters, items, and songs had to be a part of that franchise. Actions, though, all actions were available within those 2 inks, and it was Infinity. So, like I said, sets 1 through 13. But there were some, let's just say, banned cards for actions specifically. And those banned cards were actions that didn't revolve around a specific franchise. So, for example, Sail the Azurite Sea is an action, but it is only a Lorcana-based card. There's no franchise attached to that card. So that was one card that was not allowed to be picked up as an action of choice. The last rule was, in order to fill up your characters in your franchise, you were allowed 8 Mickey and Friends related cards within your characters as well. My deck didn't need it, but there were a couple people, like Christian, for example, had Peter Pan. He did Ruby Amethyst Peter Pan, but he included the Ruby 6-drop Powerline card, because that is technically from the Mickey and Friends. It's from the Goofy movie, right? It's from that overall theme. So that was really fun to see, and he tried to sing Second Star to the Right with that. That's the reason why it was in his deck. So I played Amber Ruby Toys from Toy Story, and I had a lot of fun building this deck, and when we had our theme draft night, when we were done with draft, I obtained all of the valuable information from you guys to help put this deck together, at least like the first, 20% of it together. And that was kind of your guys' contribution to like being there, which was really, really fun. And you guys specifically helped me with the actions cards that were allowed to be a part of my deck, in order to fill that slot. It was really easy to pick the characters because there are like 40 to 50 of Toy Story Amber Ruby cards in that. The You've Got a Friend in Me was a really, really easy song to include in that list. And then I had no items to worry about. But the specific actions that I included were like Red Alert and You Have Forgotten Me, because from Ryan, his opinion of it was in a kind of a limited format like this, discarding your opponent's last couple cards is going to be crucial and critical and brutal for their game, right? And it did work out in my favor very, very much so. Ultimately, it was a 5-round Swiss. I went 5-0 because of it. I had a really good deck, and I was playing the deck really, really well. I felt really nice with it, and it was kind of like thinking back to last set. I was not able to make a set championship for set 12, and I have told you guys, maybe offline, maybe online, I don't know. If I was to make a set champs last set, I was going to play this Ruby Amber Toys list. So it was nice to actually bring that deck out and play it. And in my mind, it was like what I missed in set 12 was immediately gained participating in this event. So that was another fun reason, and kind of the main reason, other than Toy Story being really cool and one of my favorite franchises. I was able to play this deck that I wasn't able to play during set 12. So that was overall like the rules. I went really well. Like I said, 5-0. We did ultimately do a top cut, but because it was so late, top cut was the top 4, and we ended up doing best of ones. I inevitably lost the die roll, and my mulligan was horrible in the sense that I mulliganed 3 uninkable Sids. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I was on such a heater until top cut, where it like really mattered if I cared enough, but it was just supposed to be a fun night. I think the franchise theme is amazing, and in talking with Christian and Hannah after it, or like even during it, Christian brought up a really good point, and then I'll let you guys ask, questions about it. Like, he said, this is what Infinity should be like moving forward. Like, instead of just Infinity just being a pile of random cards from all the sets and trying to put together, thousands and thousands of cards, Christian has actually participated in tournaments with these same rules, and he was the one that brought the rules up for this specific theme night from a franchise perspective. And he said, I think Infinity moving forward should be franchise based, following some sort of rules based on especially like the actions, or having specific cards be needing to be required for the franchise. He said it was like, I forget the way he put it, but it was like, it's Infinity with purpose. And I think that's what he wanted Infinity to be. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, doing a full-fledged tournament with this. Now, granted, you'd have to have a lot of rules, and submitting deck lists would be truly, truly important in a competitive scene like this, more so than anything else, right? But like, I would totally be on board, like participating in a bigger tournament with these specific set of rules, because it was a lot of fun. And I thank you, Ducktail Dads, for helping me build this very successful deck as part of this birthday bash. So what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I feel like you guys would have enjoyed it, this kind of theme night as well, building franchise based.
I have to rewind here, Mac. I'm so happy for your success. However, I do have to point out that you are the first person I've ever heard say that you felt nice about 10 seconds after saying that you played You Have Forgotten Me and was discarding people's hands. You're like, yeah, no, I felt pretty nice. I'm sorry. Getting rid of their hand? I don't know. However, it was very useful, it seems, and it sounded like you have a great time. I, for one, will double, triple, quadruple down on the Infinity franchise settings. However, that sounds incredible. I would absolutely love that. And yeah, it'll probably require some rules, but that is, all games require rules, and I think that's something that will speak volumes. Because, as Christian mentioned, it's just thousands of cards that you're putting together, and oftentimes it's just going to be the most hyper aggro you could possibly find. And then maybe a control deck will pop through, like the red-blue for Ed Shu. But again, I think that having some variety is refreshing, and so maybe have a couple different versions. But yeah, I think that sounds great.
I do need to piggyback on Mack's disclaimer that I did advocate for the inclusion of "You Have Forgotten Me" pretty heavily. So for anybody that thought about defriending or unfriending Mack as a result of that, please do not blame him. He was simply I convinced him. I swayed his opinions of it and convinced him to play it. So I apologize for all the cards that were discarded on my behalf. But also congratulations, and I hope you realize and recognize the power level of that card in that type of setting, or in any Infinity setting, it seems. The discard 2, like the number 2 on that card, I think is hugely impactful, because that is a significant portion, and it's much harder to play around. I might lose 2 of these cards in my hand versus I might lose 1 of these cards in my hand, because it's harder to get from 2 to 0 than it is to get from 1 to 0 in terms of like inking or playing whatever. So yes, I will take responsibility for advocating heavily for the inclusion of "You Have Forgotten Me" in Mack's deck, and I will share some blame with Mack on the cards that were discarded on behalf of playing that action. So thank you, Mack, for including the card, so I could say I told you so and know that it worked well. And I apologize to everyone else that was on the receiving end of "You Have Forgotten Me" throughout the night.
I'm also ashamed to admit that I did also immediately jump on that bandwagon as soon as Ryan brought up that card, because I had seen it in action during an online format with, just from Sealed, right? Like it was in my card pool, and I got to see that in a limited fashion. Now, granted, much more limited in that setting than this tournament, Mac, but just the power of that in a limited draw world, and how it could just like single-handedly win you games. It was like, yeah, it feels really mean, but it's unbelievable. Mac, it's really cool to hear 2 things, I think. One, that you got to take this Set Champs replacement deck to kind of honor that lost experience, because I think we all participated in some degree of one or more Set Champs for the release of Pixar in this game. But 2, that idea of Infinity with a little bit more purpose, I really hope that catches on. That is such an incredible idea, to make it not turn into this, like maybe you do have like a all the guardrails off Infinity mode for people who want to play like god tier decks, which is definitely what Infinity has turned into. But Infinity with a little bit more purpose, I think, allows for a lot more creativity and also just way more fun, I think, right? Like that's supposed to be the aim of the game in the end anyways. So I think that is incredible. I'd love to hear that straight from Christian as well, because that's super cool, man.
It forced me to think of ways. Obviously, you're trying to think of or the way I thought of it, and maybe this isn't the best way, like for toys. It was easy to do it with toys because that deck was already built from set 12. But a staple in that toys list in a core constructed way is the song "Be Our Guest." To be able to filter through your deck to pull a character card and add it to your hand. Typically at that stage in the game, you're looking for things like the Headless Horseman or Sid, for example, to kind of be the closer of that specific list. Well, obviously you're not able to run Be Our Guest because that is not Toy Story. It is Beauty and the Beast. So, but instead of playing that S tier song, I subbed in like in kind of an B tier level the new action Besties Assemble. So instead of a 2-cost song, I played a 1-cost character filter in Besties Assemble that essentially did the same thing for me, but obviously it didn't have the added value of being a song where you could play it for free and then still use your ink to ultimately play the high-level character card with all of your ink that you obtain with Be Our Guest. But Besties Assemble was a very good replacement in that format. Yes, but you guys keep talking about the You Have Forgotten Me, and maybe this is just the start of my villain arc, because I am not a discard player, but playing that discard, especially when your opponent only has 2 cards left, it was satisfying a couple times. I played a Lilo and Stitch deck, and when I played it against, sorry Becky, when I played it against her, I think I sniped Beyond the Horizon and the new Smolder card. What is it? You broke my Smolder. So that was an action that she could play. And so that was her source of card draw. And then she was top decking for 4 turns in a row. And that's ultimately how I won that game, was because she ran out of resources. So yeah, it was a big feels bad, but it sealed the game for me, I guess. So yeah, start of my villain arc. But I'm so in favor of this format. I had a lot of fun playing it. I think this is something we should do with our friend group. We played a franchise night, probably the first time we got together, like a year and a half ago. But now there's just so many more cards for the franchises. We can actually build, decent and full decks. Whereas I think before, each one of our decks had I think we did unlimited ink because of the fact that we couldn't build decks with just 2 inks. And now we'll be able to build decks with 2 inks with these added rules. So it was a lot of fun, and I think that's something that we should try before. I do want to run through some thank yous, unless you guys have any other questions that you might want to go through. If you think of them, let me know. Just throw your hand up. I got 3 main thank yous for the night. The biggest thing, and not really thank yous, just more shout outs. Brina, happy birthday. It was such a fantastic idea. It's something that I'm now thinking about, just getting together with people when my birthday rolls around, just another excuse to play Lorcana with your friends. But more importantly, that was for you, to celebrate you. So happy birthday. I hope you got everything out of it. Secondly, Jenna and Ron, holy cow, you know how to put on a party. You are fantastic hosts. They provided food. They had the complete setup in their house with all the tables, and then I got to see their streaming room, which was really, really cool. And also, what we don't see on stream, there's more to it, because right in front of their main, or right behind their main camera, they have an enchanted wall. They probably had 75 enchanted cards, and they were all just gorgeous. And it was just a shiny wall, essentially. And around their whole decorations, all the play mats that they have won or own, they have them all hanging up on the walls. They have troves everywhere. So they have it really organized and really cool. And that enchanted wall was amazing. I played on stream for one of the games. So thank you again, Jenna and Ron, Love and Lorcana, for letting me be on stream. And there were some people that pointed us out, hey, I recognize that shirt. I listened to you guys. So that was really cool to see on stream while I was playing against Christian. They were supportive of us. So that was really cool to see. So thank you to whoever was on this stream joining us and saying that you enjoyed our podcast. It was really kind of heartwarming and fun. Jenna and Ron put on their own prize wall. And it was out of their own pocket. So there was no entry fee for this. They provided food to everyone, so they were just so gracious, and it's really nice to know that there are really good people a part of this community that want this scene to succeed, and those two are definitely on the top of that list when it comes to the Minnesota community. And lastly, all the families that were there, kids were there. So while the adults were playing, all the kids were playing, outside or in the house. It was just a fun night. So I consider all of you my friends, and not only for me, but for the Ducktail Dads. So it was really nice to just talk to you more on a personal level as well. That was really fun to talk to you and hang out, and we had a blast. So thank you to everyone. I had fun. Let's do it again. I think we should host one, maybe. I have a grill, and I should probably use it. So maybe I'll grill, and we'll have more people for our own Ducktail Dads tournament, and I'm very much on brand for this franchise night. So that's what I wanted to make sure that everyone, I wanted to get that out there so all of our listeners were aware how truly grateful I am of being a part of that really, really cool event. And happy birthday, Brina. One last time.
All right. Well, Mack, that honestly sounds so cool. And, I just want to second that too. We have met a lot of people in our time in this community and the year and a half now that we have been Ducktail Dads. So it's really cool to hear stories about like seeing listeners out in the wild in some format. So yeah, that's so cool to be on stream and also do well on stream. So kudos to you as well. All right, gentlemen. Well, tonight has been an absolute blast. I'm so glad to have been able to rejoin for an episode. I hope to continue the streak. It's at 1 now, so we keep it alive. But if you listeners have started to cook up any fun lists for Attack of the Vine, please do feel free to share those with us. We are somewhat active on Instagram. Otherwise, send that link into whatever platform of choice you listen to. We do have our episodes posted to both Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasting. Maybe it's YouTube, where we also post the video of these episodes. Otherwise, next week, again, special guest, we look forward to talking with AJ. But in the meantime, gentlemen, let's get the duck out of here.